Please place your bags on the bagging scale and touch done when finished. Few weighty items to get through tonight, troops. It's not that long until the game against Hibs kicks off, really, and I'm trying to do you a half-hour podcast. All season I've been promising you a half-hour podcast. Anybody visiting this podcast for the first time is going, oh, there must be a subject he really wants to get in-depth about. It's going to take half an hour. No, that would be the shortest podcast I've done all season. I've only got 2 more goes at trying to finally deliver a Rangers support that deserves something they were promised this season. Can I do it tonight? Can I do it tomorrow? That's a false excitement I'm trying to create right now. But I want to touch on something that I missed out from the Dundee United post-match reaction pods on Wednesday night. This is the first of the items on my snagging list for that pod, and it was something that came to mind when the teams came out onto the pitch at Ibrox the other night. Rangers winning 3-1 against Dundee United. Check out the podcast. It was still pretty decent, I thought. It's still there on the site, on the YouTube page. Dundee United in their white shirt, their white socks, their orange shorts wasn't working for me. That's disappointing. And Dundee United kits can be good. They can be awful, but they can be really good. I grew up in the days when it was Adidas, the simple Adidas 3 stripes, black stripes down the sleeves of their shirts, usually wearing long. Willie Pettigrew even looked good in a Dundee United kit. Paul Sturrock with his long sleeves, and even with the socks down at the ankles. Paul Sturrock, it was the three black stripes, 3 Adidas stripes around the tangerine socks, and then the tangerine stripes down the side of the black shorts. There was no black in that kit the other night, and it just looks like a peely-wally. It's not very impressive. Unfortunately, I have to say that it reminded me of the collar on the new Rangers home kit. I don't like the new Rangers home kit. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm certainly not trying to be negative. It just has to be said. It's a pretty weighty issue in itself, the Rangers home kit, particularly in this time of a takeover happening. Foreign investors. I know we feel culturally very close to the United States of America, but it should be a worry. It should be a certain amount of concern in there. I don't think we're getting into a Cardiff City situation where Parag Maratha is suddenly going to turn around and say, well, everybody, I've been looking at the Asian markets and the kind of kits that they buy, and they're lacking a good green top. And I see blue is quite close to green in the colour chart there. Any chance that the Rangers supporters wouldn't mind if we just shifted the shade of the home kit over to kind of green? I don't think that kind of thing's going to happen. But it's always something you kind of worry about. So I was really delighted when I saw it was red and black socks. Red and black socks have been retained. That's after the blue shirt. That's the key issue for me with any Rangers home kit. Get the red and black socks in there, the old R&Bs, the Govan Borough stockings. Fantastic. And the white shorts, great, don't really care about them. But the blue, but the white, the collar, there's too much of a V-neck that's filled in, like a panel V-neck, and the big floppy collar. A nice wee red bit of piping around the very edge of the collar when you looked at it close up through my varifocals. But I'm scared to talk about kits these days because there's stuff out there. Boys that I know and talk to online, the stuff they know about kits, I've already made a fool of myself about 15 times in trying to describe that Rangers strip. But to cut to it, it looked to me like a kind of circa 1979, 1980 school team, maybe secondary school team kit, the kind of stuff the teacher just runs down to the local sports shop and goes, you just got 10 outfield shirts and a goalie's top, mate. It's a slight cheapness about it. I think it's supposed to be a callback. Don't quote me here, but I've heard in passing it's supposed to be a callback to our 2000 kind of 10, 11 strip, which in itself I seem to remember was a callback to the 1940s kit. 1940s Rangers top, the collar anyway. The collar was the actual feature, the standout feature of that, as far as reprising it was concerned. So, I mean, tomorrow you could say Easter Road. It's great. We're reliving the Iron Curtain, visiting the famous 5. You get Willie Woodburn, and if we debut it tomorrow, we don't have a Scottish Cup final to play in this season, so the traditional game for wearing next season's new strip for the first time. So if we wear it tomorrow, maybe it says Laurie Riley and Eddie Turnbull and Willie Ormond playing against Willie Woodburn and George Young. And I don't. The intention is absolutely fine, but the execution I don't think is too good. And it's James Tavernier who's modelling it. James Tavernier is modelling the kit in the promotional photographs, and he is the fittest, most handsome guy at Rangers just now. He's got the tattoos as well, so he's the hardest guy. I mean, in his spare time to relax, in his downtime, James Tavernier clips the ears off XL Bully Dogs. So he's hard as nails, super fit in both senses of that word, of that expression, and he can't make it work. So that's always a concern for me. Umbro. Now, the Umbro Diamonds back, I know it's still Castor, really, they're closely associated these days. I take it Castor owns Umbro, something like that. There's a massive connection there. But for me, it's quite a kind of security blanket, nice and nostalgic, because that takes me back to the first Rangers strips that I remember. When I was growing up, when I first fell in love with Rangers, the first time I went to Ibrox was 76-77 because I'm a jinx. My first Rangers game was in the season between the two trebles, one under Jock Wallace. I think I don't know if we had the Umbro Diamond all the time, maybe only wore the Umbro Diamond in cup finals, but we're in plenty of cup finals at that point in our history, and so that's nice, that's comforting. But the great thing about that kit, the two trebles kit, is probably not two trebles in 3 years kit. That's probably the plainness, and I mean the wonder, the unfancy nature, the lack of flourishes on that kit. It's the scroll crest, the beautiful RFC scroll crest on one side of the chest, perhaps the Umbro Diamond on the other side of the chest, and then the rest is just the blue. It's the blue of the home shirt. It's the crew neck. It's the kind of round neck of it as well, and particularly with the long sleeves. The beautiful contrast with the white shorts and the red and black socks. Gorgeous. But it's the quality of the cut, the quality of the material, the depth of the royal blue of that shirt is what makes it gorgeous. There's no need for fancy flashes on it, and too much white on the shirt, I always feel kind of takes away from it. So I've got to admit, I'm not too impressed with the new home kit. That's something I forgot to mention. How you doing, folks? This is your Fatek Barry Ferguson's 15th game in charge of Rangers in his interim period as at Easter Road. This Saturday, 12:30 kick-off, and of the 14 games he's been in charge so far in this interim period, because I'm going to specify that continually because he might have to step in again, you never know, and I feel as if he was basically interim player manager back in 2007-2008 when Paul Le Guen left, and we had that Scottish Cup disaster up at Dunfermline, even though Ian Durant was the man officially in charge. It was Barry and Boydie that got rid of Le Guen, and Le Guen's results, but so far Barry has 14 games in charge. He's won 6 of them, lost 4, drawn 4. Touching wood, he hasn't lost an away domestic game. The only away game he's lost is Athletic Club Bilbao. San Mamés, with the referees and certainly the VAR officials, obviously dead against us, so no disgrace there whatsoever, and I'm just hoping that he can, he's not going to be able to get 50% of his games as wins, but it'd be lovely for him to get up to 7 and just complete what I think has been a solid period as interim manager. Barry, preview pod, your last preview pod from Fatek of 2024-2025, and I just want to thank you for tuning into all those preview pods. There's been a hell of a lot, hasn't there, this season, and a lot of them have been hell of a long. Very unfortunate for you guys that we've played, 14 European games this season. I don't know how many we're away from. It doesn't matter. But we've played a lot of European games this season with the extended format of the Europa League group stages, of all the European group stages. And we haven't played any wee teams. We haven't played anybody that doesn't have a serious amount of European history about them. And I love that kind of thing. And I get right into it. As well as the previews for all the domestic games. You've had to do a lot of hard listening, folks, this season, so thank you very much for that. I'll get into the proper emotional thanking my agent, thanking my family, and telling you guys you're my inspiration, and the tears and what have you tomorrow for the proper end of season stuff after the last immediate post-match reaction pod of the season. But just now, I just want to say thanks very much for joining me on all these preview pods, because they tend to be pretty hard going for everybody except me. I love them. So, yeah, that's the situation. It's the last Fat Eck preview pod of the season, coming to you in association with Jersnet. Of course, tonight, join Jersnet, 9 o'clock, live on the Jersnet YouTube channel. It's going to be Ben and Craig, so that'll be a good one. I'm coming to you in association with Jersnet, as always, and I'm also coming to you in association with the pile driver. The pile driver that's working on it, it's a bridge or it's the roadworks anyway. It's just kind of over the back there. This pile driver's going for like 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been working at home this week and it's absolutely roasting out there. And as a 24 stone baldy ex-ginger, hitting 56 this summertime, I can't really handle the heat. So what I do is I open the windows at the back, because the back of the house is in the shade for the most part of the day, to get some air in there so I can actually breathe when I try to go about my business. And I've also got this smoke detector fire alarm thing in the hall, and I think it's in the wee hall. I think because of the amount of sun that's coming in through the glazed front door, it's starting to think it's on fire, which I agree with. So it's, I've tested it out. It's not the battery. There's no. There's this wee beeping every now and then, and I'm usually in another room far away, but I can hear that alright because it's a fire alarm. It's a smoke detector. It's supposed to be able to hear. It's got a pile driver, and you got this fire alarm, and then the folk kind of 3 doors along and about 2 rows down have decided this is the week that they're going to get the tree surgeons and the arborialists, the pollarders, and they've got the chainsaws going all day. They seem to live in a forest. They seem to have fitted a forest into their backyard, and the guy's got the wood chipper thing in there as well. No, the thing's like a big generator that's going on all the time, except it's chewing wood as well. They put all the wood through that to make it more manageable to take away. So it's and all the time the tap and the faucet, as the Americans would call it, going to get used to take over. In the kitchen, it's one of the ones that's got the single tap. You get 2 wee handles, and the warm one, it's a bit loose. And if you just, I know how, just get a wee push on the side, and that's it. It's absolutely fine. I thought it was a problem with the washer, but I replaced the washer, and it's just drip. It's just drip, drip, drip. And I know how to sort it, but it's only me. It's in the house during the day. So if I'm putting the kettle on, or I'm having some water or something like that, I'll go away and I'll start on doing something in the other room, and it's a drip. I'll forget to do it, and it's a drip. Drip, drip, and then the fire alarm, and a ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk for the pile driver, which I feel is much the same as what it's like to try and consider this season in which we've done so well in Europe and also been so horrific domestically, but we've also done so well against Celtic. And it's also the kind of last thing I needed this week is I've tried to get a few folk. I started to get a few folk getting to know people on the pod, because you guys all know me. I know you. We're all kind of on the same page. But folk getting in touch just out of the blue, just giving it, aye, this is the way to go now. We're going to get these young managers and we're going to get it. Like they're telling me to get on board. What? Are you kidding? No, why was I talking about being at 30 home? It was to boast. It was to boast about the fact I've been to every single Rangers home game this season, but it's also to remind, in this time where suddenly everyone's going to be transformed and everyone's going to go fantastically well, we're going to win endless trebles, and I take it nobody cares about Europe anymore because that's a bad thing. But suddenly, I think it will suddenly become a concern. How you get on in Europe? How you get on in Europe? That's what the big concern was for everybody else in Scotland. How are Rangers getting on in Europe, though, when we were dominating domestically in the 90s, from what I can remember? But starting to sound a bit bitter, and that's a big concern. I'm trying to work out, how do I not sound bitter when folk get like, be enthusiastic? Could I be any more enthusiastic? This season that you've all said is, on saison long for a season in hell. You've got total Rambo. I don't mean that Rambo, I mean Rambo about the whole thing this season, kind of symbolist poet about it. And yet I've been going to every single game, and it's suddenly the people who are telling me now, get on board, get right behind this, no doubts, we're getting fundamentalist. I think they're the same people who, like 2 months ago, were saying, let's have a walkout, let's have boycotts, let's starve the club of money. That's the only way to get rid of the directors who've got the club into a state that they can be taken over by the 49ers consortium. I think I was getting called a happy clapper, and part of the problem at that point in time for going to watch Rangers, and now I'll know if I mention the fact that this is starting to feel like it was when Craig White took over. Nobody wants to talk about that. The reason that we are in the situation we're in, requiring this massive injection of cash to get us back on a par, even par with Celtic, is because of everything that happened under previous ownerships, and yet suddenly having any doubts about ownership at all. Not even doubts, just wanting to analyse it, wanting to have a look at it objectively. No, you're not on board, come on. Look, that's the kind of pounding, nagging, that's what I'm sponsored by. And my name's Alec Anderson. Transport, motorways and tram lines, starting and then stopping, taking off and landing, the emptiest of feelings, disappointed people clinging on to bottles, and when it comes it's so disappointing, let down and hanging around, crushed like a bog on the ground, let down and hanging around. No, that's not the UEFA part of the FIFA Congress in Paraguay. Look, and that's not. They walked out the UEFA boys because Infantino turned up 2 hours late because he's with Donald Trump on a plane, probably funded Air Force One, bought by Qatar, who also bought the last World Cup. So Infantino seems just right that he'd be on there. In Russia having the World Cup before that, and it's the USA that's got the World Cup. He just can't. I don't think Trump was ever going to take over in the States until Infantino decided to award the States World Cup. It automatically has to be a dictatorship then. It's just, that's God's law. Now, if Infantino gives somewhere a World Cup, that country has to be taken over by a megalomaniacal, murderous bampot. So that's just what the boys want to have it there. The UEFA and FIFA at war. That's good to know. But that's of no concern to you guys. We're talking here on the surface of things anyway, and I do want to get into it properly. The match tomorrow at Easter Road, the battle of the multi-club ownership models, the multi-club ownership consortiums. It's the Black Knights against the 49ers Enterprises. It's like a proxy Bournemouth against Leeds United. Bournemouth have just sold a guy called Dean Court. Just sold a guy to Real Madrid for £50 million. Things are changing. Football is moving on. You know, I get that, and I'm right up for this takeover. It's just, how can anybody tell me that I'm not? I'm actually more enthusiastic about it that happens at Rangers. So they've sold a guy for £50 million. So if the Black Knights get that money and manage to buy somebody before kick off tomorrow, it could be dangerous for Rangers. It's the Edina Castlers against the Govan Bears. Broxi's Den. Do you see that there on Broxi's Den? I just noticed that. The top tier of the Govan, the Sandy Jardin up there, that wee corner up towards the away fans' corner, right in the corner there, just below the Jumbotron screens. Broxi's Den, big letters and that. And the door's open all the time, but you don't see Broxy. And there's folks standing outside, especially a beautiful night like it was on Wednesday night. There's people standing outside, hanging about outside the door to Broxy's Den all the time. Police, stewards, supporters, everything. Never see Broxy. Never see him up there, do you? And you can't miss him. He's massive coupon. So I think that at it. I think it's time to tell the kids that Broxy doesn't stay in Broxy's Den. He's obviously in Club 72, getting wrecked. He's walked away. You know, we're not going to win anything this season, so that season's really get pissed. You know, one of the guys that just, I'm in the booze, I'll just stay. I'll no bother going to the game. That's Broxy for you. Just time to get him sorted out. It's always the ones that make the biggest noise. So yeah, tomorrow we are playing the Hybees, but there's bigger news today, or bigger uncertainty. There's a lot of coverage. No one is really telling us what way it's going to go. I don't think it's going to happen though. It looks like it's not going to happen. A lot of people right on board with it, thinking fantastic, this is just exactly what we need, and a lot of other people say no, that is not the way to go. Shouldn't do that. So it's managed to cause a massive stooshy, and we don't even know if it's going to happen or not, but it looks like it's not going to happen. And I'm not in the know, so to speak. I don't talk to anybody directly that's involved, but I think I'm one of Scotland's foremost experts, if not Scotland's foremost expert on the subject of Heat, the movie Heat, the Michael Mann movie Heat, and it looks like Heat 2 is not happening. Heat 2 is just not going to happen. The follow-up, the sequel, that a lot of people have been demanding, I'm thinking it's a bad idea. Michael Mann brought out the book Heat 2, he brought it out in the book format, he co-wrote it with Meg Gardner, who retweeted one of my tweets, and that's how long ago it was that this all went into the works, because because you could go onto Twitter in the days without having to wash your hands afterwards. But Meg, I hate saying this, but it's a rubbish book. She's not going to hear this, but it's just a really bad book. But I mean, The Godfather was Mario Puzo, The Godfather. That book was pulp fiction. And it wasn't exactly literature, and it got turned into one of the most beautiful works of art of all time when it went through the cinematic prism of Francis Ford Coppola. So maybe Heat 2 is going to do the same thing. When Michael Mann does it, but Ferrari, I think he's having trouble getting it financed. Michael Mann keeps saying, we've done the book, not actually decided we're going to make it into a movie, Heat 2, right? Like, we couldn't see that coming, Michael. We couldn't see that coming at all. And I'm thinking, no, it's a bit like you don't want it with Nail and I 2. You don't want Heat 2, as far as I'm concerned. Like Den of Thieves 2, I'm hearing great things about that. And I like Den of Thieves. I thought Den of Thieves was great. Just totally ripping off Heat as much as it possibly could, and just saying, we love Heat. Let's not even make a secret of it. That was fine. It was beyond an homage. It was just a Heat fan fiction, really. Den of Thieves 2. I know we're supposed to hate the big fella because Celtic, he's a St Mirren fan, really, isn't he? He just decided to become a Celtic fan because he was, or was it the other way? But I don't know. Big Gerard, but it's hilarious, and it's a great film, lots of good action stuff and all that. I like any good heist movie, but I'm hearing this is awful, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it because I'm not that invested. Den of Thieves is the kind of film I would make, thinking I was making a film just like Heat. But Heat 2, I think he'd be a really bad idea. Ferrari, Michael Mann's last film I went to see at the cinema. I've watched it on Sky since, and I've seen it twice, and there's beautiful stuff, deeply emotional stuff, some great performances, and some not so good performances, and some really badly written pieces, and some really boring bits, as well as some deathly exciting stuff, and some really gripping parts. It's not all bad, but it's not all good enough, I think, to get Michael Mann the funding he's looking for, and he keeps saying he's going to do it. It's in pre-production. He's casting Adam Driver, and the guy Austin Butler. And it's Heat 2. It's a kind of prolepsis thing. It's like Godfather 2, when you get the story before and then the story after the previous film. Prima Miss Jean Brodie, it's the same as well. So it's going to be the young, how Vincent Hanna became the Vincent Hanna that's in Heat, how Neil McCauley became Neil McCauley that's in Heat, and then what happened straight after the events at the end of Heat, where Val Kilmer's character, Chris Hairless, sickly, ironically, it was the only one of the crew that was left alive, and Val Kilmer no longer with us, so it was never going to be a case of the same actors were going to be able to play the same characters, because Heat was made 30 years ago. But there's all this talk about it, but it doesn't seem to. It's really, really went quiet on the Heat 2 front. And I think Michael Mann's 80 years old, maybe 81 by now. I'm not saying that I'm hoping he dies before he gets a chance to meet Heat 2, because I know how to accommodate it. LA Takedown, the TV movie version of Heat, which was made 5 or 6 years before Heat, because Michael Mann just had to get it before he had the money. Just had to get a version of that story out there. So much of that story was actually true, and it meant so much to him. Years after Heat was the mega kind of phenomenon that it was, I got a copy, and I still have it, of LA Takedown, and I love it. You can see it. You can watch it on YouTube. Just look up LA Takedown. You'll get it on YouTube, the whole thing, and it's great fun. If you love Heat, it's a terrible film, and it's TV movie. It's a TV movie. It's TV movie level acting. It's TV movie level production. It's 6 weeks in which to just film LA Takedown. But he had 6 months of pre-production for Heat, and he had De Niro and Val Kilmer and Al Pacino, and it just shows you. It's really interesting from an artistic point of view, the difference you can make if you've got the money. I'm talking about Rangers. It's different. It's really interesting to see the difference you can make. You've got a bit of still support the project in general. That's Rangers I'm talking about. So what I was thinking was, if Heat 2 turns out to be Godfather 3, and it's a disaster. It's just, it's decent, but it's an insult almost to the original. Then I'll just treat it as a triptych with LA Takedown, and it'll be really interesting. I'll be the first one through the door at the cinema to see Heat 2 if it comes out. But I'd be as worried as I am about Barry Ferguson, taking over the Rangers job, and hopefully it'll work out as well as that's ended up working out so far. Still a game to go. But I would see it as a wee triptych, and then that's the 2 side panels. LA Takedown, Heat 2 are the wee side panels. Heat, 1995, LA Crime Saga. That's the main panel there. You're probably thinking, what Like, you probably think I meant the reports that David Ancelotti is no longer interested in the Rangers job, that he's going to stay with his dad. He's going to stay on side, help his dad move. We thought he was just going to help his dad move in to the Brazil job. It's like you got to, when you get to that age, you got to be there. You got to help them with the furniture and all that, get them moved in, and then it's like, right, Dad, I'll just going to go and do the Rangers job. We'll see when you get there, David. Give me 3 rings just so I know that you've got to govern. All right, I will do, Dad. I will do. I think they thought he was going to do that. A couple of jobs, a couple of games in charge. I think it's. Brazil have got 2 World Cup qualifiers next month against, is it Ecuador and Paraguay? Paraguay again. Paraguay with it. See, Heat 2 ends up, Val Kilmer's character Chris Shahelis, he escapes to Paraguay. So it's a big Paraguay thing. A big Paraguay connection with tonight's pod. But I thought it was just going to go and do those 2 games with his dad, assist him in those first 2 games in charge of Brazil, and then he would be available to take over at Rangers. I think by the end of, before the Champions League qualifier in the 22nd or 23rd of June. But there's been reports that he's absolutely going to do that. That is what he's going to do. And there's other reports that he's going to stay with his dad and just be assistant manager to Carlo Ancelotti in charge of Brazil. There was a quote saying he wants to make World Cup history with Dad. World Cup history with Dad. How can you make World Cup history with Brazil? How can you? They've won it more times than anybody else. They're the only country to have qualified for every World Cup. You qualify technically by being the host, done that twice, but in, I think, 1930 World Cup in Uruguay. Well, just if you paid your bus fare or your boat fare to get there, then that's you'd qualified. But they're the only country to have been at every single one of them. So maybe he's trying to get beat. The only way to make World Cup history with Brazil is to not qualify. Maybe he's going over there. Maybe he's that staunch that he hates Brazil and they're not going to get qualified. So fair dues. But yeah, that's the story. It's totally all up in the air, and I think that's a good expression, up in the air, because it's like a flare sent up by both parties. I was never fully on board and I kind of committed to the idea sort of thing that a lot of folks suddenly seem to be, as always happens with life at Rangers. He's the man and he's going to get the job. That sounded okay to me. It sounded like a fair enough suggestion. Rangers have got to move with the times, and this idea that every manager you get needs to have been at several other clubs and have a certain level of success in his own right as a manager before he's ripe to take over at your club has kind of gone out the window in recent years, not just because of the data analytics. It just seems to be people are realising that guys who have had a playing career that they've cut short or has been cut short or never amounted to anything that's allowed them to get like a decade extra experience on board, from the more traditional route for a manager, for a guy to be turn from a player into a manager after a kind of 35-year playing career. But I think it was a flare sent up in the air that just said Rangers, this is the kind of manager we are open to. It doesn't even mean to say that that's definitely the kind of manager we're looking for. It's just agents of the world, managers of the world. Don't worry if you don't have experience managing another club in your own right. We're open to a David Ancelotti kind of appointment. And I think it also lets David Ancelotti tell the world that he was ready to become a manager in his own right. And Rangers, somebody that's in Europe, not necessarily has to be Champions League regularly, but somebody who's got a European profile, somebody that big is the kind of club he's aiming to take over at. So whether it happens or not, it certainly helped both parties, and as long as it's helping Rangers, that's the main thing for me. The person I feel most sorry for is Derek Clark from Rangers Review. I get all my news for Rangers Review, so it's only fair that I let you know I was watching Rangers. You were watching Rangers Review as well, weren't you? That's 28 minutes, so there's no way this podcast is going to be anything less than an hour. Failed you again. I spent most of it talking about Heat. The Rangers Review the other day, when Derek Clark was interviewing the Real Madrid fan, or Real Madrid fan media, the lassie there, I mean, it was a grown woman, and she was fantastic. Her English was great, really knowledgeable, but I couldn't help. And Derek Clark's a great guy, and very, very professional, and that was the point, that he's maintaining his professionalism throughout. I've met him once, he'll not remember it, but I was working with somebody who used to work with Derek, so, and he said, if you see him, tell him I said hello, and I saw him at the Scottish Cup semi-final, Rangers against Celtic, which we won, the last one we won. Scott Arfield scoring the equaliser late on, but he's a hell of a nice guy. He was nice that day as well, even though I was interrupting him during his work just to say hello. And I watched Rangers Review. It was a proper news outlet, the Rangers Review. So the first thing that happens is when we're playing somebody from abroad, playing a foreign team, a European team, the Rangers Review will get a fan media person who supports that club to give us the lowdown, to give us the local interest in that story. He gives a bit of flavour of who we're playing. So David Ancelotti, we don't really know anything about him other than his dad, and what we can see in Wikipedia. Let's talk to somebody who's in press conferences at Real Madrid, who knows Real Madrid. So Derek starts by saying, and how are things at Real Madrid just now? And I think that was basically 20 minutes of the 25-minute podcast. Was this? He made the mistake of asking, and she was basically the Real Madrid equivalent of me for Rangers. I'm going to start talking about it. If you're going to ask me that question, you've only got yourself to blame. And she would do all these pregnant pauses as well, pausing for effect. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, we didn't ask for Mbappe. He decided he wanted to come to Real Madrid. And how's it worked out? We won the Champions League last season. We're not winning the Champions League this season. You know what I'm saying? That's with Mbappe here. We didn't, and Derek's like, is this the moment to get? And meanwhile, Derek's got a whole. I mean, I don't think it was live, but he's got the questions that folk. He'd advertised the pod earlier in the morning, the Rangers Review's morning briefing. So any questions you want? So he's got a whole raft of questions. Just like Derek, going to ask her if he's a Catholic. Going to ask her if he is he Catholic? The Ancelotti guy. So is David Ancelotti? Yeah, he's in the press conferences as well. And I mean, we're 2-0 down, 2-0 up against Barcelona. Managed to get beat. We haven't won La Liga this season. It's an absolute disgrace. You know what I'm saying? Derek, going to ask. I mean, like that. Baggio, he went Buddhist. So just because the guy's Italian doesn't mean to say he has to be a Catholic. Could you ask her? He's going to get Lorenzo in, get big Ammo in, get him in to help out to assist him. Maybe that'd be somebody to show him the ropes, not a fellow Italian, and what do you think? I mean, well, Vinicius Junior, he scored in the last 2 Champions League finals. And he doesn't get the Ballon d'Or. You know what I'm saying? Derek's going, can I ask you? No, she's still want to talk about. She still want to talk about Real Madrid, and what I mean, it's like a Catholic. It's just the guy's going to be Catholic. He's Italian, but he's one of the guys. That's just what he's. Does he go to mass during the week and stuff? Does he go to confession like daily and that? He's going to be blessing himself and we score goals. Just ask her. Going to ask her. Derek didn't really get a chance to ask her many questions at all. But we got a really good lowdown on how upset a lot of Real Madrid fans are because they've had to go a whole year without winning the Champions League. But I felt most sorry for Derek. So, yes, Rangers off to Easter Road tomorrow, troops. And again, before I deal with that, I have to, and this will segue into it, put the Connect 4 away, put the Kerplunk and the battleships out the road. I know it's going to last day a term feel about it, but Barry keeps telling us there's one game to go, still one game to go, and I want everybody on it because we want this game won. Snagging list for the Dundee United post, but I forgot to mention I was good listing all the other home games this season, the great home games. I forgot to mention the Fenerbahce game this season. Fenerbahce beat us 2-0 at Ibrox, obviously. I wasn't being uber staunch and huffy. Oh no, we get beat. I don't care how it ended up. No, we won that game in penalties, and it's one of the great European nights ever of my life. It was tremendous. The place was absolutely jumping. It was a great night for the Rangers end, even though it was also a moment of real low and embarrassment for the Rangers end because of the stupid ban. Just young boys, they pulled out a bit, the anti-woke stuff, whatever that is. But it was just the penalties up that end, Jack Butland saving it was just high drama the whole night, total tension, a European epic. That was great. I think I also forgot to mention the 3-0 win over Celtic in January. That's the quality. That's why you go to just stick with Rangers Review for your actual news. Me, it's all just reaction. It's all one fat Rangers fans POV. That goal, the third goal or last goal the other night against Dundee United. I said that during the game we're still talking about the penalties. It's end of season. There was end of season, end of term feel about it. So you're chatting away to folk. There's folk you'd be sitting next to for years behind me, to the side of me, in front of me. We're all chatting about how the VAR had to intervene to get the penalty and that. It's like the chat, it's a total conspiracy and blah, blah, blah. So we're getting into all that to the point where I only saw our third goal, the coup de grace, from the point where Václav Černý was piling into the Dundee United half and he puts a beautiful ball onto Nico Raskin's feet for the finish. I think the Rangers players must have. I saw it back on Sports Scene the other night, on the highlights. I think the the Rangers players must have heard me in my preview pod for that game when I was talking, when I wet in my pants about the 2005 Champions League final, the third goal Milan scored that night. And Milan get beat, obviously, but the goal they scored just before half time with the beautiful kind of dinked, backspun, lofted, lifted, chipped, caressed finish from Hernan Crespo. Almost contemptuous, joyful. A beautiful finish. One of the most beautiful finishes of all time after the pass of the century from Kaka and Pirlo getting involved. So I think they'd heard me saying that. No, we'll just show this guy. We can do the same thing. He's supposed to be a Rangers supporter, waxing lyrical, but a team managed by the dad of the guy who doesn't even have the decency to sign on the dotted line straight away for us. No, we're going to, we'll just show him that we can do the same thing. And it was one of the goals that summed up how Rangers have played this season. What our problem is, as well as what's so great about us, is that we do best. When we're counter-attacking, we do best when the opposition have got more of the ball. In the situation we'd got into where United needed to come forward, we're beating them for the first time in the game. So they're coming forward, and straight away we showed the beauty of that dichotomy, the fact that we like being under pressure, we like hitting on the break, and like the goal in Istanbul that Crespo, so the second of Crespo's goals in Istanbul, it starts with a midfielder tackling. It was Steven Gerrard get dispossessed by Pirlo that night in Istanbul, the 2005 Champions League final. And it's Diamandi dispossessing one of the Dundee United players, and it's 1-2s. It practically goes to the byline. And we're playing the 1-2s, and I think Big John Suter takes it forward. And I only tuned into that goal, as I say, at the moment where Czerny playing his kind of quartertista, that he goes through and just puts a lovely ball onto the feet of Nico Raskin, a beautifully weighted pass. Nico runs onto it, it's tight angle, and he doesn't do the dinked, chipped backspin finish. He leathers that thing, but it's still an acute angle, and it's still a tremendously accurate shot. It was a beautiful goal. So just to say, well done, Rangers. That was absolutely lovely. And I'm sorry, I can talk about. I've been at every game this season. I missed the first 8 minutes of the Union St Gilloise game because I hadn't downloaded my ticket properly on the QR code and that onto the phone. And we had a home friendly at Auchenhowie against Hamilton Accies, which was a closed doors game. But I've only been to all the home games I could have been at this season, whether at Hampden or Ibrox. We actually played home games at 3 different venues this season. So it's a big talk. So the other night, I'm not even watching. Half the time, I'm not even watching the action in the park when I'm at the game. And it cost me the other night. And also Cyriel Dessers, I forgot to mention the fact it was 50 goals for Cyriel. Balls out moment for both him and Tav, who attract that kind of fan who needs to see things in extremes. So they attract the haters amongst the Rangers support. So Tav, captain, he shat out for taking that penalty, although it would have been really greedy for taking the penalty if he'd missed it. And if Cyriel Dessers had missed it, of course, he could have turned round and said, well, there you go, that's why I didn't take the penalty in the League Cup final shootout against Celtic at Hampden, and everybody would have went, oh, well done, Cyriel. Retrospectively, that was a great decision. But he stepped up to get his 50th goal for Rangers, his captain letting him have that moment, and it was a lovely finish for the penalty. But that's him on 28 goals for the season, 17 league goals in total. He's the top scorer in the league, the SPFL Premiership this season. Now, Maeda of Celtic is just 1 goal behind him. Simon Murray's hot on his heels as well. Celtic are at home to St Mirren tomorrow. Traditionally, Celtic don't have too many problems against St Mirren, particularly at Parkhead anyway, So I hope Cyriel can end the season as top scorer in the league, but he's already under pressure to do that. Nevertheless, a tremendous achievement to be on 28 goals this season, 50 goals in 2 spells at Rangers. I was talking to somebody in the feedback posts under these pods this week about cricket and how I'm not a massive cricket fan, don't have the time to be, but I went to a game at Lords down in London. Let's go to Lords. We went to see Middlesex play in Hampshire. It was magnificent venue, historic, etc. Just want to experience. I've done the baseball a few times in the States, so this was the British version, and it was some serious racism going on, but it was posh folk being racist directly to the players' faces as they came out between the dressing room and the pitch. That was quite spellbinding, quite stunning. But sat there, it was really nice. The place is totally empty, of course. There's only a few hundred folk there, but it's so mellow. And I watched a guy taking like 4 hours all morning basically to put together a half century. I think I've seen a live half century, and there's Big Cyriel. The second half century I've seen live since I saw that one down at Lords. Well done to him, and I think Cyriel Dessers is, in both senses of the term, the reason we're second. The reason we're second in the league, by a distance in both respects, 17 points behind Celtic and first, 17 points ahead of Hibs and third, is because of Cyriel Dessers. If he was able to score as many chances as he gets, he would have left in January because he would have scored about 60 goals before January. He would have been snapped up by someone in the last transfer window. But the fact that he does score, 28 goals this season is the reason we get. It's like the dirty jobs that need doing that no Rangers, the more vocal Rangers supporters won't give you the appreciation for. You're actually showing up that we need, that we're going to be second, that we should be in second place, even when you score all the chances you missed at Dens Park. Okay, you got the winner, but there's no but about it. We needed somebody to win that game for us. We needed somebody to score the goals that ensure we're going to be second. We're not going to drop down to third place. We're not going into this game against Hibs at Easter Road tomorrow needing to win to ensure that we finish second, that we get into the Champions League. That's Cyriel Dessers won't get the credit for that. He should get the credit for the goals he scored, particularly away from home in Europe, and I include last season in that as well. There's not a lot of them, but my God, Real Betis, Olympiacos, Manchester United at Old Trafford, Dynamo Kiev on their temporary patch in Lublin. So vital, the goals Cyriel Dessers has scored, and so many of them were absolutely lovely, and most of them will be in games where he should have scored more. I remember Ali McCoist. Ali McCoist needed 3 chances to score 1 most of the times I was watching Ali, but you've got Chris Boyd, who's the expert now that he's not playing anymore. Most people see him as the man. The chances he scored domestically, but he didn't score any in Europe, or he didn't score anything in the Champions League, didn't score anything super important in Europe, and only get 1 goal against Celtic in a meaningless end of season game. They're never meaningless. We beat them. Well done, Chris. For us, so there's 2 sides to that story, but I think Cyriel Dessers deserves high praise because he's playing in a Rangers team that's struggling to score goals, and that's the thing. He's on 28 goals this season. If he gets 2 tomorrow, if he gets 2 at Easter Road, he's going to be the first Rangers player to score 30 goals since Alfredo Morelos in, I think it's 2019-20 season. I think 29 the season before that, or it's the other way around. 29 goals one season, and 30 goals the following season. In Gerrard's first 2 seasons, I think, Alfredo Morelos. That was absolutely fantastic, but it was the season we won the league, 155, and 155 at a canter. Morelos got, around about 14 goals. James Tavernier was the top scorer with 17. That's not, Dessers got 17 in the league this season. But you had Dessers, and Kamar Roof, I think, was the top scorer in the league. I think he had maybe 14 league goals and 15, 16 goals altogether. Ryan Kent got 13 goals that season. Joe Aribo got 8. I think Connor Golson, centre half, he got 8 goals that season. Somebody else got 8. Yanis Hadji, Scott Arfield get 7 goals, and you'd let Borna Barisic chipping in by 5. Our fullbacks, 20 goals between them in the course of a season, and that's what we've not had this season or last when Cyriel Dessers has been here. We have not had the rest of the team contributing the numbers they should contribute. Igaman's been getting there this season, but it's been down to Cyriel to score the goals that ensure the humiliation this season isn't greater. If you see this season as being humiliating, couldn't he do it against Queen? That's the thing. Couldn't he get it against Queen's Park? But he does get a goal against Man United at Old Trafford. I don't know. That's the way these things balance themselves out. But I hope the big man can stay in front in the league goal scoring race tomorrow. And he was speaking the other night as if that was his last home game for Rangers. He expects to be away, and if Cyriel Dessers does leave as well as the great goals he has scored, that thing he said a few times, it's a beautiful club, but a difficult club. It's not an easy club. A beautiful club, but not an easy club to play for Rangers. That's a phrase that will stay with us to describe ourselves to ourselves for the rest of our history. So he's a great guy. I went to see the top. I went to see Feyenoord Stadium. Did the full tour of that when I was over in Rotterdam a few summers ago. Go to Rotterdam. Rotterdam's great. If you've not been there before, it's a fantastic place for a holiday. So chilled out, eating, but it's just really interesting. I would definitely recommend it. And Feyenoord, they were fantastic. So good on the tour. We were the only people there who weren't Dutch speakers. And the guy, the Dutch look like? They're all big and rangy. I'm thinking, is this guy an ex-player that I don't know enough about Feyenoord to say? And I never actually asked him. I wish I had. He was so good. But he's asked me, who do you support? So Rangers, right? Down to the club museum, and the guy who runs the curator of the club museum, Feyenoord, he gets him, and he said, Dessers, we just signed him. And Feyenoord, obviously, played for Feyenoord. Cyriel Dessers is like Rangers fan, Rangers supporter, because they're talking about to me in English. I know no Dutch. And I'm saying to them, what's, they're saying he's a great guy, oh, he's a lovely guy. Oh, I've spoke to him and that he's really, he's great with the press, great with the fans. Nobody's got a bad word to say about him. I said, so does he score goals? I scored. He scored. Yeah, definitely scored goals for us. And I couldn't get him to say, I didn't want to ask, what's wrong with him? What's the problem? But you could see in their faces, it's like, no, he's a good, he definitely scores goals. He definitely scores goals. Yeah. But it was just, that was it. And it wasn't due to they've got better English than me. It wasn't due to a language barrier. They were holding something back. And I see what it was now. We've heard this. We heard it from, was it Ronald de Boer or Frank de Boer that was talking to the Rangers Review, I think, about him earlier on, that he'll have games where he's 2 out of 10 and games where he's 9 out of 10. But I love the big fella. It's hard not to like him, but it has cost us. There's no doubt about it. His inability to finish sometimes, his inability to finish relatively easy chances. A Rangers team that doesn't pull the ball back from the byline in the way that obviously suits him. He's a bit of a poacher as well, I think. It hasn't suited him, but there's nobody else doing it. There's nobody else scoring these goals. Sometimes the ball's bouncing off him, he couldn't hold it up front. It's definitely cost us, but it's only the most apparent way in which we've been cost this season. The goal scorers and goalkeepers, the two extremes of the park, always get it tighter than anybody else. But he's been far from the only person that's let us down in any way this season. And I love Big Cyriel. Hope he does the business tomorrow. There was, as a kind of finality about what he was saying the other day. Barry Ferguson, the manager, was the same in his post-match press conference after United at Ibrox the other night. It's a kind of valedictorian air to what he's had to keep checking himself. There's still another game to go. You never know. I might still be in this job. I think he was just saying that to keep the players on their toes, keep the press on their toes. But he was getting a bit emotional, obviously saying goodbye to Ibrox in a kind of first team squad involved capacity. And I worry, again, I'm doing it again. I'm worrying that we're going to get embarrassed tomorrow. Something embarrassing is going to happen to him. And that's good news, because I've been worried about that from the moment he took the job. That something embarrassing was going to happen to him. And he didn't deserve that. He just didn't deserve that on his CV, on his reputation. I want to see it so I can love Barry freely again. Free love with Barry Ferguson. Something that we all dream of. I just wanted them to get through this period, and I was worried we were going to get leathered off Celtic at Parkhead. We beat them. I was worried we were going to get leathered off Celtic at Ibrox. It's a draw. I was worried Celtic were going to win the league at Ibrox. No chance. They won it before that. But these things did not happen under Barry. So I was worried. He's up against Jose Mourinho. He's never even managed anybody in a European game before, Barry. He's never even managed a top flight club before. This is going to be... He beats him. He pits Mourinho out. There's been bad results, obviously, but he has only lost one away game, and that was to Athletic Club Bilbao. Sometimes the wins themselves. I mean, the game at Dundee was probably maybe one of his most embarrassing games, and it was a victory. We won that thing at the end of the game. I want that to continue. A funny feeling. A lot of it, I think, depends on how Hibs react to this game. We've also got Václav Černy's wife or girlfriend apparently on Instagram with the bags packed, saying they're going on holiday. They're going to go on holiday to the Czech Republic. So we don't even know if she's going just now. If they're going just now back to his home in the Czech Republic before he gets back to Wolfsburg, obviously, or if Černy's going to be playing tomorrow. But as I say, with that and also the interview from Barry, the interview from Dessers, I'll be here next season if I'm wanted. It's all very diplomatic, and it all feels like they've kind of checked out, almost literally. I don't know what kind of team we'll put out there tomorrow, what kind of mindset they'll be in, but all as important as Hibs. Hibs they're in continuity. They're in the middle of an upward curve. They've had their best season in years. It's their best league campaign for God knows how long. It was in the 1940s in some ways. It's their best when they were winning league titles with the famous five, etc. It's been a tremendous season for them, and I just don't know, had Hibs required to beat us tomorrow to complete third place, which was their major ambition, to seal third place, would that have given them the chance to Hibs it? Could they have been beating us 2-0 and then we win the game 3-2 with a Dessers hat-trick in the last 5 minutes? No, they could totally Hibs it. Or, so in that case, they might actually be in better form tomorrow because they sealed third place on Wednesday night, because they nearly Hibs that as well against St Mirren. They're 2-0 up after 10 minutes, playing really well. had a goal ruled out, another goal ruled out, and then St Mirren could just as equally have beaten them. St Mirren were back level just after the hour and had a third goal. It was dubiously pulled out, perhaps, I don't know. They were definitely protesting about it anyway. So, but they got it secured. Their main aim was secured the other night to finish third. So they go into this game tomorrow, though, wanting a party, wanting a celebration, feeling good about themselves. It's difficult to know how Hibs are going to react to it, and that's a big thing, because I'm sure we're down to, is it 1,300 tickets tomorrow? That's great. So suddenly you're doing well. You don't want our money anymore. Absolute bastards. As far as I'm concerned, as someone who spent years on the old away end at Easter Road, where it was just like standing on a pavement, just no protection from the wind, or no roof on the thing. I didn't mind your Fallen Rangers, but aye, we used to fill that thing with more fans than they got in the other three sides of the stadium. And now suddenly it's, we don't need you. And the Rangers, support liaison officers having to say all 1,300 tickets have been posted out to my Jers members. 13,000 folk applied for the tickets. But Hibs are going to have a big day. They've decided they support their team again. So it'll be a very pro-Hibs stadium. I don't know how that's going to lead to David Gray, who should be manager of the year. I don't know if it maybe has been. That's no Rangers nomination, so I'm not really interested. But David Gray probably done the best job, comparatively pro rata, of any manager in Scotland this year, or certainly in the top flight. So I don't know how he's going to approach it, because there was a big learning curve during the game. In fact, during the season, Hibs lost their first game against us at Ibrox. The first time we played them at Ibrox, they lost that game, having played really well, having maybe had the better of the play. We were terrible on the day. Hibs missed a penalty, they missed a golden chance towards the end as well, but we beat them. And then the game at Easter Road in January, we just beaten Celtic 3-0. We go to Easter Road, Igaman gets 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, eventually gets a hat-trick, but we keep Hibs in it. We keep chucking it that day. It ends up 3 each. It's a bad day for Rangers. And the moment it changed in that game, so, and of course Hibs come to Ibrox. After that, Hibs come to Ibrox last month, and they beat us 2-0. Again, we us having more of the ball. They're quite happy because they learnt that lesson at Easter Road that day. It was when they were attacking us. Hibs have always felt duty bound to really go for us. Hibs and Hearts, that's why we've got such great records there at those two grounds, the two big Edinburgh grounds, because they're big enough clubs that they feel duty bound to attack anybody that comes to their home, and we just pick them off. But that day, when we went 2-0 up, Hibs started giving us the ball, which seems counterproductive, but that's the way the game's going just now, and it's certainly the way to play Rangers this season, and we didn't know what to do with too much of the ball when we're not hitting them in the break, and it all fell to pieces, and we got a draw. So is David Gray tomorrow thinking, party time, let's go for it, let's send the troops out there, get stuck into them, get the crowd going? Or is he going to try and win the game? I think he's going to try and win the game, and that is by giving us more of the ball. And I don't know what our mindset is going to be at all. But I just want Barry to get through this one without a defeat. Hopefully with a win. Aye, that is the team. What team are we going to put on the park? See, I don't even know if Václav Černý is in the country, if he's off ski or whatever. The only big question, did Jack Butland, he come back in nets the other night. The manager did say Liam Kelly did have a back problem, but it seems pretty clear from his post-match reactions, his post-match comments. Barry Ferguson was just giving Jack Butland his last game at Ibrox, but then went on to say whoever comes in to take this job next season, he's got a real problem. He's got two, first-class, first-rate goalkeepers, Liam Kelly and Jack Butland. He's been a real gentleman about it. It was Barry. But I think tomorrow will be Liam Kelly back in nets. Although, from what I remember, I don't think Liam Kelly was too comfortable. Big Bashiri, I think, was battering into him and stuff like that. And the game in January, maybe Jack Button will get the nod tomorrow. But it's going to be a big day for Hibs. It's going to be a big Hibs crowd. And whether this accusation that's been levelled at Rangers that we prefer to play with the pressure off will suit us in that respect, who knows? But Hibs have just drawn 2 each with St Mirren and Paisley, and that's embarrassing. Any team that goes to Paisley and draws 2 each with St Mirren, they should be ashamed of themselves. So they can't be that good, They can't be that good. I fear for this one. The thing I fear for this one, but as I say, I've feared before, and it turned out all right, didn't it? Barry Ferguson, of course, winning the league at Easter Road Helicopter Sunday 2005, when Barry come back for Blackburn to Rangers and found Fernando Rickson was the captain. So back to stand back there to let Fernando lift that trophy that day at Easter Road. Aye, and there was something else. It's 2006 is the last time we lost. It's a stadium that we don't lose at. Easter Road. It's 2006, the last in the top flight anyway. It's the last time we lost there. But we draw there a lot, and it's always Hibs are always ones getting the late equaliser or something. It's always kind of embarrassing for Rangers fashion. I have a funny feeling. It's a bit like the season in the Championship where we didn't go up. It's the first season we had in the Championship, and we played Hearts, who'd romped the Championship. We played. It was that last game of the season. We went to Tynecastle, and what was their trophy lifting day, and we went 2-0 up, and I think they scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes to bring it back to 2 each. And it was like, well, we're playing them off the park. It was great, and then they come back at us, so they get their day, they get their big celebration to go along with lifting the trophy. There's no trophy for third place, but Hibs certainly feel that they're due a little lap of honour and what have you. A funny feeling for that kind of scenario. We might be a couple of goals up and Hibs come back, or Hibs are going to pound us straight away. We had that horrific 5 each game where we were 3-0 down, then 5-3 up. Jimmy Nicholl, the interimship. And I think the whole thing with Barry is, it sums up what I'm trying to touch on. It sounds a bit, and it is bitterness. I went on about this for about 10, 20 minutes the other night in my post-match reaction pod, and it was kind of confused because I wasn't expressing myself properly, because I didn't want to offend anybody or sound like, a Rangers supporter having a go at other Rangers supporters. But I think at the end of a season where we've put so much into supporting the club, to be told that while we were doing that, a lot of Rangers fans told by other Rangers fans that to support the club was wrong, to now be being told you need to support this club because we've decided everything's right now, that there's a takeover, and that to me is glory hunting. That's what used to be the biggest sin in my life. So basically, it's bitterness. It is bitterness in my part, that you've been a glory hunter, you've been part of the problem, because you're going to watch Rangers, because you're supporting Rangers, because you're not slagging Rangers players, you're not booing them, you're not doing walkouts, you're not doing boycotts and that kind of thing, while respecting other people's right to do just that. And now being told, oh, you're not enthusiastic enough. If you've any reservations, not even any caution at all about the fact that we're getting taken over by a kind of Red Bull influenced foreign entity, then you're just Mr. Negative. You're whatever. And it's you couldn't be more positive about Rangers than I am. That's the kind of thing I was trying to explain. And what I'm talking about is summed up by the attitude towards Barry Ferguson. It's like, do you want him to have the job? Well, how can you support him in the job? I don't want Barry Ferguson to be Rangers manager full time. But my God, since the moment he took this job, all my previous bitterness towards him, no bitterness, but kind of, we fell out because of the way he undermined Paul Le Guen back in the day when he was a kid. We were all children back then. And the way he had to leave Walter Smith, the greatest Rangers figure of my life, he has to sell Barry because he's out of order when he's with the Scotland national team. So that the minute he took this job, I was just thank God, beautiful. I don't want this for Barry, and I just felt the love straight away, the care, the worry for him. I want him to avoid any chance of humiliation, so I want that to continue tomorrow. But it's like, if you're backing Barry that much, you must want him to have the job. It doesn't work like that. Nothing. It doesn't always have to be sugar or shite. It doesn't always have to be totally pro, totally against. Basically, you'll never learn and you'll never get anywhere if you can't see subtext, context, grey areas. I'm eating a bit of sugar, but there's a smell of shite in the background. That kind of thing. You need to do that. And with Barry, it's like, I don't want him to have the job. I don't want him to get the interim job. But my God, I'm fully behind him when he's in it, and I'm terrified for him. And I'm so glad that he got the home wins. It was like, oh, he's not going to win a home game. That's going to be hung over him for the rest of his time as a Rangers supporter, a Rangers legend. And suddenly he's won 2 consecutive home games by an aggregate of 7-1. Barry and Neil McCann and Billy Dodds and Alan McGregor could walk into that Kilmarnock job. They walk into that Kilmarnock job if they wanted to. Just Chris Boyd would say a few words for them on Sky Sports coverage of the Celtic game tomorrow, and that would be it. They'd get the job. They don't want it, or Barry doesn't want it. The fact that he would rather go back to glad-handing folk and talking about the old days at Ibrox on a match day than being involved in the first team manager anywhere else, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing, and that is something that I think people who are just suddenly getting, I think it's an extension of themselves, about getting the data analytics and the data data-led approach to football, and it's got to be a young guy, and it's got to be. I think it does have to be. I think that's what they've got to go this day. But why are you bitter about the old ways that built up the club you have now? You know, it's a really weird time, a really weird time, and I just wish everybody would be on side. If you have a Morrison's More card, please scan it now. Connor Barron interview just get released today. Connor Barron get asked, do you ever regret coming here? You know, because we hadn't won any trophies this season. He get asked post-match, didn't he? He's sitting there with the blazer on, looking about 12 years old, in the tie, and you know he's got the eyes. It looks like he's just woken up all the time. Connor Barron, but he managed to screw them even tighter at that question, and he was kind of smiling like with incredulity. He almost laughed in the guy's face for asking the question. No, not at all. Do you ever regret coming here? And then he says the line about, apart from anything else, the standards training are so much higher here than at my previous club. You know, Connor Barron, it's the only game I haven't seen live this season, be it being at the game in person or watching it on television. The only game I haven't seen live this season, because I was on holiday with my wife, was Rangers' 2-8 draw at Pittodrie. And I watched it, I'd recorded it and I watched it back live. Not as live. I watched back. I watched it back when I get back up the road. And right at the end of that game, Connor Barron gets jeered by the Aberdeen fans because he takes a smack. One of the Aberdeen players steams into him. The Rangers are losing 2-1. Aberdeen are about to beat Rangers at home and also gift Celtic the title. What a double whammy for Rangers supporters. It's at Pittodrie that happens to us. And Connor Barron, the guy they hate because he went to the enemy. You know, they try to build up this idea they've got a derby with us. But they hate Connor Barron. They've been booing him all game, and he captains Rangers on the Paladine. He takes this hit as well, just to add insult to injury. Rangers trailing this game. Yay! But he got the ball. He got the ball through. He made sure the ball went to who it was supposed to go to. And then Cyriel Dessers goes through and goal. And that's this guy joke. He scores a lot of goals for Rangers, but he misses so many chances. But he's just hit the post. Dessers just hit the post. Yay! That's it. That was your last chance. We're deep into injury time here. And then Yanis Hadji curls an absolute beauty, worthy of the all-white of Real Madrid, never mind the all-white of Rangers, which is more beautiful than the all-white of Real Madrid, because there's this kind of pretentious ours. It's just, and then it goes top bin. It's 2 each. The Celtic fans that were lining up all over the country to celebrate. It was at lunchtime kickoff. They had the rest of the day to celebrate. They've been denied that. Aberdeen fans have been denied a victory against a 10-man Rangers reserve team, captained by Connor Barron out there. And I think the same thing applies to Rangers supporters, as Aberdeen fans should have remembered that day. Don't be a Rangers supporter who wants to, you're going to totally write us off when things are bad, because we're always going to come back. Don't write us, because short term, medium term, it's bad, we're not winning this stuff. I'm not associated with this Rangers. I'm only associated with the Rangers that wins everything. No, it's the same Rangers throughout. You have got to be associated all the time or none of the time. You've got to be proud of it all the time or none of the time, or you'll end up being top bin, top corner. This is your last chance to earn more stripes this season. If you are not heavily into this game tomorrow, of fearing for Barry, wanting Rangers to win this game, I know it's nowhere near as important as a game that's going to win as the league title, for example, but it is also something that's got these things. Getting the home wins against Aberdeen and Dundee United means that whoever takes over next season does not have that jinx on top of them as well. That kind of feel, we've not won a home game. If something goes wrong for them, they don't get that lumped on top of them. Yet again, Rangers fail to win at home. This has been going on since last February. Maybe it's the club itself is just jinxed. That slate's been wiped in behalf of and I also don't want us going to Easter Road next season. It's becoming a really difficult venue for Rangers, and most of all, I don't want Barry Ferguson's reputation in any way tarnished as incorrectly as it would be by a poor result tomorrow. But this is your last chance to earn more stripes this season. Stripes, they're more valuable than my Gers points. You've got to be as into this game as any other Rangers game. No, you can't be, because there's not as much to play for, but you've got to care, and you've got to have the, I don't see it's having guts to back your team, to back your club in a game like this. It's just an absolute privilege. Get your stripes now while Rangers are still pissed before we go mega. We've still only won everything once. Since 2012, since the financial troubles of 2012, since we went into the lower leagues. We've won all the lower divisions once. We've won the Challenge Cup once, the League Cup once, the Scottish Cup once, the Scottish Premiership once. We've reached a European final once. We've played in the Champions League group stages once. We haven't retained anything. So before we start winning trebles, before we start winning things for a second time, before we start retaining doubles and trebles and league titles, this is your last chance. To savour this game. Doesn't matter what kind of state Rangers have been in this season. They've still managed to get to a European quarter-final, provide some magical moments, and you should always absolutely love the teddy bears. Morrison's more card accepted. Thank you for shopping at Morrison's, and I will see you tomorrow for our end of season sale. Cheers, trips.